Are you looking to move to the wonderful, beautiful country that is Japan? Well, do I have information for you on finding an apartment? Now, obviously, everybody's heard for foreigners, it can be a challenging process, and I hope that the information I got in this video will help you out. Now, I'm going to start with what you need and how the application process goes and all that, and then I'll give a little bit more of my personal experience at the end. So make sure to stick around for that if you want more information about how things went when I was looking for an apartment. But to start off, what do you need to get an apartment? Obviously, you need to have your visa, you need to have your residence card, you need to basically be in Japan. You can find an apartment when you're not in Japan. It is obviously a little bit harder, as well as you'll need to know a lot more Japanese than if you're already here, because there are some services like Google Translate on your phone that can make things a little bit easier to sort of communicate with the person here. Now, what do you need to get an apartment in Japan? Well, you need two things. You need a bank account and a phone number. Now, the issue is that to get one, you need the other, which is unfortunate because for some places, you really need a Japanese bank account to get a phone number. And for a phone number, you need a Japanese bank account. Now, me, for instance, I was able to get a SIM card and a phone number by just using my Canadian credit card. For some instances, they will ask for a Japanese bank account. Some instances, they just want a credit card. It doesn't matter where it's from. So definitely go to the mall and go to like one of those like mall stores where they sell cell phones. That's how I got mine. And then all they asked for was a credit card. They didn't care for a Japanese account. And so once you have your phone number, then you can go to your bank. Now the bank account, you can get that pretty done in a day. And then once you have your phone number and your bank account, then you can start looking for an apartment because you need both of those before you can apply. And so how do you find an apartment? Well, there's many services available for you to find an apartment. There's many online realtors as well as brick and mortar realtor stores where you can find an apartment, and you can find these everywhere. Like on blogs, you're bound to find one brick and mortar realtor, and there's so many websites that help you find an apartment in Japan. Now, the issue with the websites, a lot of them are Japanese strictly, but using the Google Translate extension, you're able to sometimes translate and get a good idea of what they're saying on the website, and that could definitely help alleviate it. Obviously, they both have their advantages. The online catalog has a wide array of apartments available, while the brick and mortar stores have sort of more of a small directory that they're able to handle. If you want a different apartment, you might have to go to another brick and mortar store. Now, the great part about the online realty websites is the fact that you can scroll down to the bottom and usually will have the website linked to the brick and mortar store that does handle the apartment that you will be going to, where you would apply for the apartment. Now, once you have an apartment in mind, obviously you need backups. Get 2 or 3 more backup apartments just in case, and obviously explain this a little bit later. So once you have the apartments and once you have backups, obviously you need to go visit them. If you're not in Japan, some websites have sort of a 3D tour that you could sort of go around and see what the apartment will look like. But obviously I do suggest to go to the apartment themselves, because for one instance, there was an apartment that looked nice, but then I went to go visit and it was a mess. The guy just moved out. He didn't clean it at all. It was disgusting, and I obviously did not apply to that apartment. So definitely go visit the apartments, check out how they are, check out their status, how clean is it, and sort of stuff like that, because a lot of these can influence your choice on apartments. Once you have your primary apartment, the one that you're most keen on getting, and then you have your backups, you have to keep in mind the fees that come with applying to an apartment here in Japan. Now, back in Canada, what we had to do is all we needed was first and last month's rent. That's pretty simple and self-explanatory. First month's rent, you're about to move in. Last month's rent, so you can leave whenever you want, and they don't have to worry about you skipping town. And that was pretty simple, first, last month's rent, right? Now, here in Japan, you have to think of rent, as rent is very important as it influences the other fees. So you have key money, which is basically money that goes directly to the homeowner that you're never gonna get back. Usually that's sometimes like 2 times rent, 3 times rent, maybe sometimes even more depending on the apartment and the location and stuff. So you definitely have to ask what the key money is gonna be, as well as sometimes you might be able to negotiate it, but maybe not always. So you have to look at the key money and accept that this might not be negotiable. And again, 2-3 times rent that you're never going to see back, that's a lot of money. Now, there are other fees such as the lock changing fee, like around $200 to change the locks, and I didn't care about that. I don't think the previous tenant is going to break into my apartment. And then there's a cleaning fee, because for some reason you got to pay for them to clean the apartment, not them paying to clean it for you. Doesn't make sense, but it's whatever. I don't remember how much that was. There's a bug killing fee, so they would call exterminators to sort of sanitate the area. And so the funny thing was, I was actually touring this apartment that I'm in right now, and I asked what fees are going to be involved when applying to the apartment. They said, oh yeah, this, that, and then a bug killing fee. And then so I looked around, John Travolta style, I'm like, I don't see any bugs. I ain't paying that. And so I obviously got that taken off, because I'm not paying a bug cleaning fee when there's no bugs. And I haven't seen anything here aside from 2 cockroaches. They're massive, but I didn't see anything but those 2 cockroaches in the last year that I've been here. As well as you do have to pay a fire insurance fee as well as guarantor fees. So obviously being a foreigner in Japan, you do need what's a guarantor, which is basically a middleman to sort of cover your fees if you just decide not to show up or pay your rent. And so for me, I have my sensei, which is great, but for you, you might not have somebody to sort of vouch for you. And so you might have to go to one of these guarantor companies, which sort of acts as your guarantor, and you do have to pay the service fee for them to act as your guarantor. Now, obviously you do have to take into account into all these fees. And again, so like I said, rent, key money, lock changing fee, cleaning fee, bug killing fee, fire insurance, guarantor fees, and I'm sure there's other fees that I didn't even mention. And so all that adds up. I remember looking at an apartment, I'm like, oh, this one's not that bad. It's like $700 a month for rent. I'm like, that's pretty cool. But then when I added up all the fees and I asked for the fees, it was up to like $4,000 or $5,000 just to get the key. And a lot of that money I wasn't gonna see back. And that's unfortunate with getting an apartment here in Japan. So make sure you ask about all the fees up front, about all the apartments that you're gonna apply to, because the rent might look great, but then once you look at the fees, you're like, ooh, we went from $500 to 20 grand. Sheesh. So make sure to ask about that. Now you found your apartments, you're okay with the fees. Now what's next? You gotta apply. And the unfortunate part here is that you could be discriminated just because you're a foreigner. And what does that mean is they'll deny you strictly based on you being a foreigner. Now, obviously that sounds bad, but you do have to put yourselves into the shoes of these homeowners with these companies, the fact that you're a foreigner and you might not enjoy Japan and you might just leave. Dude, we have Jake Pauls, Logan Pauls in the world who come to Japan and act like assholes. And so depending on where you are, they might deal with a lot of assholes. Like let's say Tokyo, a lot of foreigners visit Tokyo. Some are great, some are bad, and the Japanese people, they got to deal with that shit, and some of them just don't want to deal with foreigners. And so that's why they discriminate about foreigners, is the fact that they don't want to have somebody that might trash the place, that might not follow the rules, that might not even pay their rent and just leave. And so obviously, who does that affect? It affects the homeowners. And so I can sort of understand this discrimination against foreigners, as well as some homeowners, they're old, they only speak Japanese, they don't speak a lick of English, they don't want to deal with that shit. They want to deal with somebody that doesn't speak Japanese, and so they don't want to deal with any kind of miscommunication in sort of the contracts or when talking with the tenant. And so let's say they don't want any holes in the wall, and then the tenant makes holes in the wall because of a miscommunication. Who does that affect? It affects the homeowner, not the tenant. And so I feel like a lot of the homeowners, they just don't want to deal with that shit. They'll just be like, you know what? No foreigners. I don't want to deal with that headache. And so you know what? It's understandable. Obviously, it's difficult for us to find an apartment, but putting yourselves in their shoes, it sort of makes a little bit of sense. And so you got your application and it's finally accepted. So what do you got to do? You got to read your contract. Look at your contract. What can you do? What can you not do in your apartment? Can you put holes in the wall? That's one of the really important things. We couldn't put a hole in the wall, and when it got internet, we had to tell them no holes in the wall. So they had to like put it through like the air conditioner or some shit to get into the apartment. And so make sure to look at your contract. Any holes in the wall. Garbage collection day, garbage separation. Here in Japan, it's very important you understand how to separate your garbage. In some instances, it's very strict. In some instances, it's not. Depending on where you live, it's different. Even if you're literally just a couple blocks away from the main city, it could be different. And so make sure to check out when they collect garbage, how to separate garbage and stuff like that. Very important thing is to just be a good tenant in your apartment. And so after reviewing your contract and all that, you have to wait a little bit because again, you did pay a cleaning fee. They got to clean the apartment. You did a bug killing fee, maybe, probably not. So they got to hire exterminators, lock changing fee, got to change the lock. So you have to wait a bit for them to do all the processes to make the apartment perfect and ready for you to move in. And so once you're approved for your apartment, it's very important to go to your local ward office, which is basically just a government building so that you could register that, hey, I live in this apartment. And so what they do is they put it on your residence card. Now, what is your residence card? Now, residence card is basically the card that indicates that you're allowed to be in Japan. It's sort of like your passport, but not your passport, because before you legally were obligated to carry around your passport at all times because that was your identification here in Japan, because it also had your visa, because a lot of foreigners sometimes maybe stick around when their visa's expired. And so obviously if you're caught without a proper visa, you obviously get kicked out. And so your residence card, you need to always have that on you. And so it has your status, it has your visa, it has your visa expiration, as well as it has where you live, because it's very important for the government to keep tabs on where all the foreigners, whether they do and should they even be in the country at all. And so go to the ward office, spend like 3 hours, get that done, and then you're good. You don't have to go to the ward office again, if I remember correctly. Not sure. And so after going to your ward office and getting set up and registered for your apartment on your residence card, then you have to call up your utility utility companies to get everything squared up. You have your electricity company, sometimes your gas company, and then your water company. There might be more utility companies. I'm not 100% sure. Those are the three I deal with. And sometimes you have options on what services you can go for. I know for my electricity company, I had 2 options. I just went with one of them that was, I guess, a little bit easier. Apparently they had a little bit of discount rates as well. So I went with them. I believe for my gas company and my water company, I didn't have any choice. I had to go with a specific company. And so you have to call them up, get things set up, let them know, hey, I'm moving in, get things started up at this date. And so something very important is you really have to do, call up your internet company, get the thing set up quickly as possible because it takes forever. It took me, I believe, a month and a half. I came here in December and I got my internet in like mid-January, and it was a pain in the ass not living with internet for a month and a half in the current year. So make sure to call your internet company and get that squared up as quickly as possible. Now, the good thing is that for many internet companies, they know that obviously, you know, current year, it's hard living without internet. So they do have services where they do provide pocket Wi-Fi's that could help alleviate the fact that you don't have internet. A lot of pocket Wi-Fi's have different rates, different internet plans, stuff like that. So make sure to pick the one that you want. I sort of went with a 5 gigabyte a day one. 5 gigabytes a day, that's not a lot. With the current landscape of things, streaming 1080p YouTube or Twitch, that gets done very quickly. And so I had to watch YouTube videos and Twitch streams at like 240p, maybe even less, just to be able to get the 5 gigs in a day. I couldn't even finish a Netflix movie. I remember watching The Last Samurai and my internet died mid-movie and I couldn't finish my movie. So definitely check what's available, get the one that best suits your need. Hey, maybe you guys don't need 5 gigabytes a day, maybe you just need 1 gigabyte, and that's okay. So definitely call up your internet company, get that squared off, and see what's available. Now, you did all your utilities, called them up, you got your internet ready, and you gotta wait a month and a half. Now, what else do you need for your apartment? You need furniture. And obviously, I suggest don't go to any of these Japanese stores. Just get everything on Amazon. I know Amazon treats their workers like crap, and obviously we should stop giving Amazon more money. But unfortunately, the prices at Amazon are just too good to be true. Like a bed, I went to Nitori to go find a bed. I have a double bed. That would have cost like $800 at Nitori when I just got it for like $200, $300 on Amazon. Obviously, you got what you pay for. But for me, my bed has been great. It's been lasted, I can't remember how long it's been since I bought this bed, but it's been great. I have no complaints. And obviously, your mileage may vary. Get everything on Amazon. It'll make your life easier. Don't go to all these stores and waste your time. Just straight off Amazon. As well, if you're gonna go for a TV, don't get a TV. For some reason here in Japan, electronics such as TVs are very expensive, which doesn't make any sense because in Canada, I could get like a 32-inch smart TV. Obviously, you get what you pay for $200. I had no complaints with that. It was great. And for some reason here, TVs at 32 inches, not even smart TVs, are like $300. But if you want a smart TV, another $100. And so another extra $100, $200. I ain't paying that shit for a TV. As well as your apartment's already tiny. You don't got space for a TV. You can't make holes in the wall. Where are you gonna put your TV? So you might as well get yourself a nice projector. This baby was like $200. It's great sound, great picture, a big screen. Get yourself a projector. Honestly, you'll thank me. TVs, Japan, not worth it. Get a projector. They're great, fantastic. In current year, I can't complain. As well as an important thing is you don't get a fridge and you don't get a washing machine here in Japan when you move into an apartment. So you definitely want to go find a fridge and a washing machine, but you already spent like how much money getting the apartment? You don't want to spend a boatload of money getting a new fridge or a new washing machine. Definitely go to a secondhand store. As well for everything else, go to a secondhand store because here in Japan, they take very good care of their things. So you can go to a secondhand store and find a great deal on a washing machine, a fridge, hell, a bed, and maybe even desks. I got this desk for like $100. Now, obviously there's a story where the shipping was actually more expensive than the desk, but I love this desk and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna pay the extra money. And I love the desk. I'm glad I paid the extra money. So definitely go to secondhand stores, check out what your options are available for that. Obviously go to a secondhand store first, see what you have available there. And if you can't find it there, go to Amazon. Don't waste your money with any of these Japanese stores because everything is unbelievably expensive for absolutely no reason. Please, please, please save yourself the headache and go to secondhand stores and Amazon. Now that's pretty much it, I believe, when finding an apartment. Again, another important thing is that a lot of contracts are up in 2 years. You might have to renegotiate your contract, pay key money again. So make sure to ask about all the information when it comes to the contract. When does it expire and how does the renegotiation work? We'll have to pay key money, we'll have to do this, we'll have to do that. So make sure to ask about all the information when applying for an apartment. Now, I've had my apartment for around a year. I have no complaints. I haven't had to deal with the landlord at all because I guess I'm a good tenant. I pay my money. I don't scream too loud loud when I'm gaming. And aside from that, everything's been fine. Everything's been great. Obviously, your mileage may vary on your apartment. You might get paper thin walls. You might have terrible neighbors. I don't know. But I hope that this information was useful. I hope it helps you find an apartment. If you have any other questions, you can ask down below in the comments below. But I do hope this was very useful information. And I do hope it helps somebody out there finding an apartment in Japan. But that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this content, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I will catch you lovely ladies and gentlemen next time. Peace out.